The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. Whether you're making a traditional roasted turkey or spicy turkey tacos, your go-to shrimp cocktail, or your first Cajun risotto, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace your traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Welcome to Bite-Sized Bios. This is meant to be a mini-sode that will accompany HDTH. Every week, I will pick a person from history and dive into their lives. All right, welcome back to another episode of Bite-Sized Bios, the mini-sode for HDTH. This week, we are going to be talking about... Who are we talking about? Why does it always leave me? Harry Houdini. That's who we're talking about. It leaves me as soon as I think about it. We're talking about Harry Houdini today. But before we get into that, I did want to have one or two things to cover from the last episode that were, there's always one or two things you leave out, or, when I finally recorded, I'm just like, I don't know if that has a place anywhere in here. But I had done a small amount of research on George Washington's teeth that I'll share with you now that I just didn't think had a place, and that's why we do the mini episode. So, while many people believe that George Washington had wooden false teeth, this was not actually the case. Wood is not a good material for false teeth. It gets covered in spit, becomes like a mushy, kind of pulp sort of thing. So the president's first false teeth came from not his first, but all of his false teeth came from a variety of sources that were including teeth that came from humans as well as even animals. So this dude had animal teeth. Our first president had animal teeth in his mouth. You heard it here on BSB, HCTH. In 1785, John Greenwood, who served as George Washington's dentist, helped to raise public awareness about the newly invented porcelain false teeth. And so he was like one of the pioneers behind like really the idea of dentures. And that's what I thought about when I finished. I was like, I covered all this different stuff, but I didn't talk about dentures. So I wanted to kind of put this in there. There was a breakthrough in dentures when in 1839, when vulcanized rubber was created. We talked about that way back in the Wayback Machine with the rubber band episode, which was episode 2. So that's what the teeth were then held in, which is, kind of, similar to what we have now. Today's dentures are made of either plastic or ceramic. And so let's see, I think that's about it. They say he had 4 sets of dentures, old GW, and some of them we had a gold set. I think he had some ivory, right? And then there was, like they said, there was some that was a mixture of human, donkey, and hippopotamus teeth. Dude had hippo teeth in his mouth. If you walk away from this podcast learning nothing else, you learn that George Washington, our first president, had hippopotamus teeth in his mouth. You're welcome. But yeah, I think that's about it. Not much more to cover. Let's see. I hope everybody's going to hdthappen.com as well as going over to the Twitter page at hdthappen and just finding out how more things happen. And yeah, just keep on coming back and pressing play. I appreciate you guys. And here's the episode. So, this guy, what's wild is I read articles about this guy. I watched documentaries about this guy, Houdini, of course, and I actually have a biography from him, one of those scholastic ones that I bought at a bookstore years ago that I've read a while ago. But when I looked at, I skimmed the book right before I actually started recording this because I did all that other stuff earlier, and I realized a lot of the facts that they say, they don't seem to go together with any of the stuff, like any of the article stuff or like the documentary I watched on YouTube. The dates are off. So I guess to say take these dates and stuff with a grain of salt, because I don't know, everyone seems to think differently about whatever happened to this guy and when it did. So we're gonna have the old HDTH bite-sized bios version of Houdini in his biography. So he was not originally born Harry Houdini. His original name was Eric Weiss, and he was born Eric Weiss on March 24th, 1874 in Budapest, Hungary. And his father was named Mayer Weiss, not a mayor, but just, his name was Mayer. I guess his mom was trying to be optimistic. He actually tried to be a rabbi, but there was no real record that he ever actually was a certified rabbi, which is probably why he wasn't that successful at it throughout his life. And his mother's name was Cecilia, and he was one of 7 children. He really loved his mom a lot, and that would that would actually kind of shape kind of the end parts of his life. Her death would. We'll get there. Let's see. So Weiss, or AKA Houdini, and his family moved to the U.S. either, like I said, in some places say 1876, some say 1878. Let's see. The family changed the spelling of their names from W-E-I-S-Z to W-E-I-S-S, like the German spelling of Weiss. And so they settle in Appleton, Wisconsin, where his father tries again to become a rabbi and is not that successful. They say actually he becomes a rabbi, and then I think he's replaced in a couple months by a younger guy. And so the family actually just moves from Appleton, Wisconsin to Milwaukee, I think, Wisconsin for a second. I might be getting that wrong. No, they didn't. They moved to New York. Excuse me. They moved to New York City. And by the age of 8, he was already working to try to support the family because he could already see his dad wasn't bringing in that much money. Let's see where else. We see he actually ended up hopping a train and disappeared from his family for about a year. Right before he turned 12, he just left and was trying to. They said initially he was trying to go become a cowboy in Texas, but he got the wrong train and just ended up a couple towns over. I forget the name of it, and tried to make some money. He shined some shoes, sold newspapers and stuff like that, and was able to send money home and just showed back up. That's a different time where an 11-year-old can just disappear, right? And then like your parents don't go to jail or anything. But he debuted at the age of 9 as an acrobat. This is before he went on that year-long journey on the train, and he called himself Eric, the Prince of Air. But by his teens, he was working with his father at a necktie factory because, like I said, the whole rabbi thing kind of didn't pan out for old Mayer. And so we get to how he decided to become Houdini. He named himself Houdini after the French magician Robert Houdin, after reading his 1890 biography. And so, like, the idea he was, and someone, I guess, and I don't know if this is true or not, but someone told him that basically if you put an I at the end of whatever name in French, it means that you are like that person. So he's Houdini, he's like Robert Houdin was the whole thing. And I never got a clear beat on where Harry came from, and maybe it's just the alliteration. Harry Houdini sounds a lot better than Greg Houdini. No offense to like any Gregs out there. I'm just saying, it doesn't pop off the page the same way that Harry Houdini was. But so by the time he was 16, he was going by the name Houdini, like we said, honing his skills as a magician. He had a day job working for a locksmith, which is where he kind of learned how locks worked and got the idea for, the handcuff escape tricks. And that would kind of be a continuing pattern formula in his life. He would break down these locks to figure out how they work. And that's usually how he ended up, not how he ended up getting out, but it was a large part of his research to become such a good escape artist. He also learned how to control his throat so that he could relax the muscles in there and be able to swallow things like keys and needles. And this was one of the real ways that he was able to get out a lot of the escape tricks, is because he would swallow the key beforehand, right, and then get locked up, and then he would throw it up while he was in whatever apparatus, and then he would unlock himself and then swallow it again. And it's important to mention, how do you do this, or what no one's seeing? Well, when he first started doing these tricks, and actually for the majority of the time he did these tricks, he did them behind a curtain. So literally, it was like, people are, I guess, I don't want to call people dumb, but it's just like, I don't think people would stand for that now. Like, he just was like, I'm gonna go lock myself and I'll be back here, y'all, and when I come out I'm gonna be unlocked, and you have to stand on the integrity of the fact that I wasn't throwing up keys back there and unlocking myself. Like, I don't know, I don't think it would stand. Let's see. So he meets his wife Beatrice while performing at a show. I forget the actual date. It was the late 1800s, I believe, because they leave and go to Europe by the 1900s. So yeah, she was sometime in the late 1800s, and within a month of knowing her, they get married, and she became one of his assistants on his show. But at the age of 25, he gives up magic for a second because it wasn't really working out. They weren't making any money. He actually puts an ad in like the mail, or excuse me, in the newspapers to like sell his entertainment goods, because he's just like, I'm done with magic. But due to some contract things that he already signed, he had to actually finish a tour, and he does so. And on one of the shows that he's doing, there's a guy named Martin Beck who's there, and he's a vaudeville talent scout, and he's like, I'm gonna make you a star, kid, and basically gives him a contract. But he says, in order to get the contract, you have to stop doing the card tricks and just focus on being an escape artist. And so that's really where he kind of becomes the Houdini that we all know of. Before that, he was a very mid, like, magic, magician guy. Like, it's, you just, making stuff disappear and all that. But once he goes vaudeville, he really kind of finds his voice, or his place. And so from there, like I said, his money goes up. He start making a lot more money. That's where he starts to coin the escaping from the straitjacket trick. And for a brief time, and I couldn't figure out exactly how long it does that he does this, but he comes out behind the curtain from behind the curtain and does some of the escape stuff because he realizes that the entertainment is also not just in the escape, but also in watching the escape itself. So some interesting things about Houdini. One thing that he said that he would take ice baths all the time, and he did this to endure all the underwater escapes that he did. So he would like literally go underwater and be in like a box or something like that and escape from the box and then just like, pop up. I mean, this guy was really blowing people's minds. And even watching some of the stuff, you can go on YouTube. He seems like he was a long time ago, but there's an astonishing amount of video footage of him and people that knew him. So there's definitely a lot of stuff out there about him. So yeah, he and his wife go to London in the early 1900s, where they find true success on a tour all over Europe. They make a lot of money and they come back in 1904, and he continues the same things. A lot of escapes, a lot of locks, all that stuff. But what really made him mad was he wasn't as famous as he wanted to be because people weren't as interested in what he was doing as more as they were interested in the Wright brothers and them making an aeroplane, right? They made the flying machines. This bothered him so much. That he bought a plane and flew it to Australia and became the first guy to fly a plane in Australia, just so he could have some sort of like name recognition at the time in like the papers, like that dude. And that's what you find over and over and over again from like watching the documentaries and reading about him. Like he was so vain. He was so vain to the point where he flew a plane to another country just to be like, I'm the first guy here to fly a plane. Nobody cares, bro. His mom died in 1913, and that really messed him up. In the late teens and early 20s, Houdini, he actually began to go after the idea of mediums and spiritualism. It was said that the idea of mediums tugging at the emotions of people who had lost their loved ones was kind of it really bothered him because he really missed his mom. So the idea that someone's out here faking that they're talking to someone from the afterlife when he wishes that he could talk to someone from the afterlife really bothered him. So he kind of made it his crusade to go around and oust, all these people who were parading as actual mediums. And that's pretty much him. Let's see, his death. He died on Halloween of 1926 of a burst appendix, and basically, I guess he had gotten. There's different conflicting stories as to how he got it. Some guy from college who was a boxer punched him a bunch of times, and I imagine it had something to do with the fact that he was just doing crazy stuff for all his life, and he got a little older and wouldn't stop doing it. So, but he basically had the burst appendix and the infection that came from that spread throughout his entire body and actually killed him. This was like a year or two before I think penicillin even actually existed, so there was nothing they could really do but just kind of let him die. All right, that's been another episode of Bite Size Bios. Hope you guys enjoyed learning about Harry Houdini, or should I say Eric Weiss. But yeah, so not much more to say. Like I said, like I always say, go to the website, go to the Twitter page, so subscribe where you can. And I'll see you guys in a couple days.
When you download the Baker's app, you have easy access to savings every day. Get the most out of weekly sales and receive personalized coupons to save on your favorite items, all while earning 1 fuel point for every $1 spent. Baker's makes it easy to save while you shop, whether it's in-store or online, so you get the most value out of every trip, every time. Download the Baker's app now to save big on your next purchase. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Must have a digital account to redeem offers. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.